Hello and welcome to the official SuperCoach AFL podcast. I'm Paton. Pre-season is in full swing. Practice matches are upon us, but for the last 3 or 4 months, it's all been about time trials, training, match simulation, and the man who's been there since day one from what I've been reading is Josh Barnes from Code Sports and the Herald Sun. Josh, great to have you on the show.
I think I'm all track watched out. I think we've made it to, mid-Feb. I think that's enough for me. I did go to every Melbourne club. I haven't made it to Geelong. Apologies, Cats fans. I didn't get down the highway, but every other club in Victoria, I made it to at some stage over pre-season. I was there on day one, the very first day. I think I was at Collingwood then, and I've been there a lot since. So a lot of burnt faces and a lot of burnt heads, but I've made it through. I've got there.
You ready for the real stuff? It's just around the corner.
Thank God it's actual matches. I was pleased to see on Monday Geelong and Hawthorn when they were playing in opposite jumpers. I'm sick of seeing the reverse jumpers against each other in scratch matches, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's good to have some actual action.
Switching teams at halftime, all that kind of thing. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, we'll be all over the practice matches and community series and opening round, and it's all coming at us very fast. Today we're going to dive into a couple of the Melbourne clubs that Josh has been spending a bit of time at. We've got Essendon, Richmond, Melbourne and North Melbourne on the agenda. So yeah, plenty of very relevant SuperCoach names at those clubs we will be asking you about. Before we jump into that, reminder, the SuperCoach podcast, the official SuperCoach podcast, league code 407756. Jump in there, and if you're not watching this already, jump over to the Code Sports page on YouTube. You can watch all our shows there, like and subscribe. Now, straight off the top, before we do get to those clubs very quickly, there is some breaking injury news. Dossie did touch on this very briefly on the Lair show. Go back and catch up to those, all the positional shows they've been doing. But quickly we can reel through just in the last few days. Shocking couple of days for the Giants. Tom Green will miss the season with an ACL injury. Finn Callahan out for a couple of weeks with a hip flexor, hoping he will be back for opening round. And the other one, big one for SuperCoach, Matt Rowell, broke a finger in the State of Origin game. He's having surgery. They're saying he will definitely miss opening round. Not putting a timeline on it, but probably won't be back too soon after that either. So just quickly, Josh, does that rule all of those guys out? I mean, I've got Callahan and Rowell in my midfield, so is it back to square one for me?
Yeah, I'd certainly be looking at it, I reckon, Al, if you've got backup options. How much does it make? Have you got him in, and how much does it make you consider Clayton Oliver now that Tom Green's
Well, yeah, this is an interesting one, the Giants midfield. The Callahan one's tricky because he's not going to play in the practice matches, so I'm not sure who their midfield is going to be in those games. They've got a lot of your sort of Harry Rouston types that I think will roll through there. But
Xavier
surely,
O'Halloran, I think.
Yeah, exactly. But surely Clary has a much more enhanced role. I mean, he basically has to take over from Tom Green now, doesn't he? So he's got a fresh start. The way they always talk that up at a new club, he's got to be better than he was last year.
Yeah, well, and he's going to be their number one inside mid now. We were wondering how him and Green would work together. Well, we don't have to worry about that anymore. So he's going to be sort of that main man. Toby Bedford's out for a while as well, so that's more midfield minutes gone for the Giants. He's going to be sort of their go-to hitting option, I think, to start at least these practice matches. He's $500,000. He's got to be worth considering.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely moving up my draft rankings, I'll say that. But
is that by his own fault, or is that just because everybody else is falling out?
Yeah, more what's happening around him. But I'll definitely be watching him closely in these practice games. But if we get into these clubs, as I said, plenty of good names to talk about there, and we'll start with Essendon. So I know you were down there for some hardcore match simulation the other day. Who can you tell us about? I've got a good list here, but who's been jumping out for you? Who's flying on the track?
Yeah, so the last session I went to was their big match simulation session, so a proper match they played, which was basically the A's versus B's. It was essentially done that way. And the standout player clearly was Archie Roberts. So he'd only played off halfback throughout all of pre-season, was thrown into match in the week before, played okay in the second half, so I thought we'll go with it again, played the entire game on ball and was the standout midfielder and the standout player on the ground. So I don't know how much that makes you consider him differently, but he playing as an inside mid, he was excellent. He was winning clearances, getting on the outside, collecting ball, and his foot use is always good. So he was the player really that stood out to me, playing instead of halfback through the middle. And that opens the door, obviously, for Jacob Farrow to take that halfback role. I think that's going to be that step. Farrow will play at halfback, and Farrow's definitely in my team, as with a lot of other people heading into the year. So it's a bit of a domino effect there, I think. So
what do you think the Essendon midfield looks like in round one? Obviously, Zach Merritt wasn't there the other day. He was playing in the State of Origin game. They've got, they have quite a few. It's not like they don't have midfielders. You've got your Sam Durhams of the world, Jai Caldwell, if he's fit. I'm not sure where he's at the moment. But do you think Roberts they've only made the move in the last week or so. Is this something they're going to persist with?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch these practice matches. So that A team, the midfield, was Roberts, Parrish, Caldwell, Durham was essentially that midfield. Lockie Blackiston looks like he's winning the race in the ruck at the moment. So he's probably ahead of Vigo Visentini. Nick Bryan, I don't think will be back probably a month into the season, so round 4 or 5, and if he needs a couple of weeks in the VFL on top of that, we're looking at around 6 or 7. So I think Blackiston will start in the ruck, and then that will be their core with Merritt. We saw last year what Merritt was playing half back, half forward, so I don't know. I would assume they would start him on ball, but you don't never really know. I think that's probably going to be their core 4, I guess, would be your Parrish, Caldwell, Durham, Merritt. Caldwell is fine after his knee sort of mishap a few weeks ago. And then the question is, how many minutes does Archie Roberts get in there? Can he be sort of a top-level player, or do they start him at halfback and run him through for a couple of centre bounces a game?
Yeah, I mean, either one could be good for us in SuperCoach. He's $450K, owned by 5% of coaches at the moment, but he's in a nice... There's 2 or 3 players, as you scroll down the prices, they're right on top of each other, a McKercher, a Miles Bergman around that price, even Nick Newman, who could be really good for us this year. So, yeah, he's definitely one to add to that list. Averaged 84 last year, but it was more like 90s in the last sort of month or so.
Yeah, it got better and better as the year went on.
Yeah.
And everyone else was falling down. He was one of the few players that sort of enhanced his reputation.
Well, didn't get injured too. So
yeah, that's always a plus.
Exactly, yeah, especially at the Bombers. A couple of other names you mentioned in there. Obviously, Zach Merritt is a bit of an unknown, but Darcy Parish, how's he tracking? I think if he's there in round 1 at $330K, well, I'm definitely, he hasn't moved from my team for the whole preseason.
Yeah, a lot of people looking at Darcy Parish. He didn't collect the ball outrageously like he has in the past in that match sim, but he played the entire game in the midfield, which is always a good sign given his injury history. The talk out of there has been that he's been flying throughout preseason. I think Xavier Dersma said he's back to his All-Australian level best, when I know he was a SuperCoach darling that year. So I'll be looking at him very, very closely. I think he's going to be playing all through the midfield. You can't really play him anywhere else. Yep. He's fit. He's had pretty much a full pre-season. So, at that price, he's definitely got to be either in your team or very, very close.
Now, we always love to talk about rookies in the pre-season, and you mentioned a name there that we're very keen on already in Jacob Farrow. But what about Dyson Sharp? He got a lot of press early, impressing, and I think Essendon was pretty pleased to get him where they did in the draft. But was he in the midfield there at all? In the A-team, hopefully, in match sim?
Yeah, he played in the A-team the whole time. He played the last quarter in the midfield, so he was at half forward before that. Didn't do a whole lot, took one nice mark, but then once he was put in the midfield, he started racking up ball in there. So he did show he was available. Obviously, they were shifting plays around at that stage. It wasn't the best teams against each other in the last quarter, but once he gets those minutes, he does win the ball. So that's what you got to be watching, I suppose, in these practice matches. If he is playing midfield, I think they'll probably try and rotate him through. Isaac Kako is another one who will rotate through centre bounces, I would guess. That's the way they finished last year, playing him through there. He's reasonably good in the centre bounces and can float forward. So whether those two are playing that role at the same time and that limits either of them, I guess we'll see. I'd be a little bit, more cautious with him, given he is that higher price than some other rookies. And if he's playing half forward, I don't think he'll score that well. But just his body shape is incredible. The first training session I went to, I was wondering who that 25-year-old was. Some Sandful pickup or something. But he's ready to go. So
we did play Sandful last year.
Yeah, and played it quite well. So he's ready for action. I think if they have injuries at Essendon, which they always do, I think he'll be sort of first cab off the rank to move into more midfield minutes.
Yeah, that's always the trick, isn't it, with these young guys? How much midfield time will they actually get? Maybe he's more of a bench guy than an lock on field, which is where I've had him for most of the preseason. But yeah, interesting. Another one we'll be watching very closely. I mean, just quickly speaking of injuries at Essendon, where's Jordan Ridley? Is he back?
He did not play in that scratch match, but they believe he will play some minutes in the second practice match, and then hopefully playing round 1. There's been no doubt, they say, at Essendon about his round 1 availability. They've been extra cautious, is the words they use out of there, but I guess we'll see with him. But I think he is certainly likely to play round 1. But no form leading.
We're not going to see a lot of him before then. Yeah, it makes it pretty difficult. Any other rookies that might break in? Sullivan Roby's a bit behind the others, isn't he?
Yeah, unsighted Sullivan Roby. Yeah. We haven't really seen him do any drills yet with that back injury, so he won't be playing until mid-year. I guess you're looking at him as a mid-year sort of downgrade if you get there. One that I don't think would have been spoken about at all is Max Kondo-Giannis. He played in the A-team in that scratch match. I think that was because Ridley and a couple others weren't there, so I don't think he's right in the mix at the moment, but he played really, really well. He was equal to Farrow in that sort of halfback, third tall kind of area, intercepting type player. he's another one I would be keeping a close eye on. Just his VFL form, I think, in the early weeks as a possible sort of mid-season player. We know Essendon is young, so they want to play as many players as they can. I think he has impressed people so far this summer, and certainly a chance this year.
And another bolter that I think John Ralph mentioned a couple of weeks ago, Hussein El Akhtar in the forward line. Is he a chance to get a game? 113k.
Yeah, Ralphie's picked him in his team for round one, so I'd be keeping a close eye on that. He kicked 4 goals in the scratch match. Definitely worth a look. I mean, those small forwards, they're very up and down in terms of scoring, but I think he will play probably early and then maybe he'll rotate in and out. I think the thing with him is he's a young small forward. The running patterns and all that sort of defensive boring stuff we don't like, that's going to be the issue with him. But he does do one or two things every session or every game that stands out. So I think he'll be playing at some point.
Yeah, it's interesting talking to Brad Lloyd. We got some intel from him. Go and check that out on Code Sports and on the SuperCoach app about the rookies and how, what's involved in actually getting from the draft through to playing round one. And he said those small forward roles are actually quite complex and there's a lot for them to learn. So, yeah, that was an interesting thing that I took out of it. But we'll move on to the Tigers. So if Dossie's there, you can sound the Nuff alarm because there's a lot of plays here that I'm getting very excited about. All the Ferraris are revving up down at Punt Road.
It's very loud on Punt Road at the moment, the way they're revving those engines. There's a lot of them. I was at training before, a couple of weeks ago, just on the eve of the Oz Open. They did a very long match sim session that day, and I walked away just wowed by Sam Lawler after that session. So he played only through the midfield that day. Again, did the same at a more recent scratch match last week. Again, just playing centre square minutes. And I know it's unfair. I know we all say it, but he just moves and played exactly like Dustin Martin. Centre clearances, running forward. Carefully, Josh. one Richmond insider said he is a better set shot than Dustin, which I thought, gee, that's a big call. He's pretty good, I thought, around goals, Dusty. But he just plays like him, and he just looks fantastic. And they want to play in midfield. He was outstanding that day. There's
talk just though in the last week or so that maybe just holding him back a tiny bit. You know what that's about? Anything there to worry about?
Yeah, I think their concern with him is because he came through as such an outstanding junior cricketer, he's never actually had a footy pre-season until this year. Last season he came in off the draft, did a massive hamstring injury midway through the year, came in with a hamstring sort of issue, so he didn't have a full pre-season. They tried to, as they say in Clubland, deload him at the end of this pre-season, but he's a lock to play in round one, is all the word out of there. So he'll be playing against Carlton, and I imagine starting in that centre square.
Ooh, yeah. He has been in and out of my team. You're tempting me again. What about all the other kids at Richmond? That's there's a lot of names there that obviously the Tigers and Tiger fans are getting pretty excited about, but they actually don't have too many injuries at the moment, so it's a bit of competition for spots. Who do you think actually gets in?
Yeah, it's a little bit tighter than I think you would have expected. Yeah. I think Grill will probably play. I think round one, that speed of halfback they don't really have now that Dan Rioli's not there. I think they're looking for that kind of player, so I would expect him to play at halfback. Cumming might be a bit more touch and go through the midfield because their midfield stocks are getting better and better, even though they don't have huge name numbers in there. They have more players available than ever before. So I think he might be a little bit more borderline. Another one everyone has been looking at, Patrick Rechko. He's cheap playing on the wing. They love him. They love the way he gets the ball on the wing, which is music to our ears.
Yes.
I think, again, he'll be another one that will be borderline, but I think he probably plays round one. So they're going to be, there's a couple of names that are a bit more iffy than we thought, but I think they're definitely all going to be playing a lot of footy this year.
And Josh Gibcus, surely he's best 23?
Yeah, he's definitely playing. The I guess, cautionary tale for SuperCoaches around Gibcus is people watching on the track, and even the session I watched, his intercept game isn't what it was. He was a sort of a star in his first year as an interceptor. He's been playing purely lockdown at training, and it's been more finding his feet, I think. So if we're looking for big numbers from him, sort of Zach Reed style last year, I'm not sure we'll get that early, whether that's something that'll come throughout the year or whether we've just been misled from Tigerland. We'll see, but I don't think his sort of possession numbers are as high as potentially we hope.
Okay, interesting. And the other one that he's still in 27% of SuperCoach teams who maybe picked him early on hoping that he'd be back, but where's Josh Smillie at?
He won't be playing round one.
Yeah.
I think we can put a line through him there. So he's not playing either of the practice matches. There is hope that he'll play maybe a half in the VFL practice match, but he won't play in the senior side. I think that means he's not playing round one. If he hasn't played a full game, they're surely going to be ultra cautious with him with that quad. He's only just getting back into full training now, so we're only a few weeks away. So I'd be tipping sort of round 3 or 4, hopefully, for Richmond. A couple of games in the VFL, I'd expect.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, they're certainly not going to take any chances with him, I wouldn't have thought. But
the issue with him is he hasn't been able to kick. And that's a pretty important skill, not only in SuperCoach, but football in general. The issue was he was running okay, but then when he went to kick, the quad was pinging and not feeling good. So they didn't really actually know what was wrong there until they sent him for surgery. Apparently he's okay now, but his kicking's still only building up. So if he can't kick full strength, then he's probably not playing.
Yeah, fair enough. But as you did mention, we've mentioned a couple of times on these shows, we will need rookies during the year as well. So hopefully, if he can get a bit of a run at it in the VFL, and we might see him, a month or two into the season. If we jump over to Melbourne again, another really interesting club, and you've done well by drawing teams here. None of these teams have any buys or anything to worry about early in the season.
Doing my best.
Pick as many of them as we like. Who did you like at the D's?
Xavier Taylor was the person who stood out to me when I was at training recently. I was standing there sort of watching and didn't really recognise him at first. It was my first watch there, and I was like, who's that guy that's been playing for 10 years down back next to Jake Lever? He just looked so solid there, can play tall, small. He looks like a lockdown back.
Yeah, excellent. So that's another strong defensive stocks in the rookie department this year, I think. What about someone like a Cozzy Pickett? What's their midfield look like? Because obviously we talked about Oliver, he's gone. Petrarca's gone now. Jack Viney, I'm not sure when we'll see him. So
yeah, I was having a real think about this the other day. Like Jack Steele is really rattling up my expectations. Like he's a player that has been played in sort of a different role the last couple of years. He was a really well-scoring player, and then he was played more defensively, and last year he got shunted out so badly that he was pushed out of the club. He's $510,000 at the moment. He's a real watch for me. I think he's in 7% of teams. I think he can get back to that well over 100 scoring. He's going to walk into round one as 1A or 1B as their best midfielder, alongside Cozzy Pickett, how much he's playing there. So he's going to get a lot of the ball, play a lot of inside mid, and he's certainly a player I'd be watching. His skills and his composure stood out to the couple of training sessions I've been to. So definitely he's on the watch list for me. Cozzy Pickett, I think, will be playing that mid-forward role. I think he'll take that over completely from Petrarca. They sort of switched that a little bit back and forth last year. He'll be playing centre bounces, spinning forward, I think will be the plan for Cozzy. So,
he's too good up forward to spend the whole game running around on the ball.
Question is how much of the ball is in their front half and how much they need him getting the ball to the front half, I suppose. But I think he'll be that forward mid player that plays centre bounces and goes forward. And he's listed as a forward available for your team there. So he's got to be one of the best chances, I suppose, as a high-scoring forward throughout the year. And what is a bit of a thin pool, I think, this year.
Yeah, and what about some of these younger guys who are hoping to get some more midfield minutes, like a Harvey Langford or Caleb Windsor's another one who's jumped onto the radar in the last week or two?
Caleb Windsor will be, I think, if you've got your 1A and 1B as Steele and Pickett, Caleb Windsor's going to be the number 2. Like, he will be playing all midfield. That's all he's been doing throughout pre-season. Has been lining it up. His kicking is still going to be an issue. We know that's been a knock on him for a while, but his speed, and noticeably, particularly for gathering possession, SuperCoach style, his 1-2 work has been really strong. He's worked with the stand rule. He loves going past as the running player, Bailey Dale style. So he's that player they want to give the ball to, running past, gain the extra 10 metres and kick it long. So I've got him in my team at the moment. Handy that he's still a defender in SuperCoach, because he's going to be playing as a pure mid. So, I'm locking him into my team right
283,000 in defence. So, there's plenty of money to be made there, potentially. What about CJ Giath was lighting up pre-season early doors, but now he's been sort of off the track a bit? Yeah,
he has been a little bit in and out. I don't think that's too much of a concern. He's going to need to play with Judd McVie gone. And obviously, who's their other defender down there that's injured?
Bowie.
Yeah, Bowie, that's it. So they're both gone. That's the role CJ's going to slide right into, I think. So him and Xavier Taylor probably down there are the two ins. I think he plays often and early. Whether he sort of produces scoring-wise is going to be another question, but I think he'll be playing every week for Melbourne for sure.
Yeah, okay. And any other rookies who might get a go early? I mean, Kalani White's in plenty of teams, but that's just as a bit of a throwaway spot on the bench. But what about Latrell Pickett's one, who's another option up forward, 150,000, so he's slightly elevated price, but is he worth a look?
Yeah, I think he's very much the same as Al Akar in that he does some things at training where the defenders sort of walk away shaking their heads thinking, why did I get subjected to that? He dances around people crazily. Like Cozzy, he's going to light it up. I think he's going to be similar to Al Akar. He might be in and out of the team. Bob up 1 week and he'll kick 3 and we'll be saying how good's this kid, and then won't get a touch for a couple of weeks. He's that kind of small forward. But they have been using him similar to Cozzy at training, trying to get him around the stoppages, add some verve, as Stephen King's going to be after all year. So definitely I think he'll be playing at some stage this year. Again, what you can get out of him, how long he'll be in the team, is going to be another question. But Melbourne is going to be looking at as many young players they can, and young players that can do things, and he can do things that not many players can.
Yeah, nice. Now, obviously, Max Gorn wasn't there recently. He's over in Perth for the State of Origin, but I'm not sure if you've had much time to closely look at how he's going. And I mean, he's had a couple of little setbacks with finger issue, and then he had some hamstring awareness or something before the Origin game, but he went ahead and played. So hopefully nothing too much to worry about there. But there was some talk that he's maybe having a little bit of, he's talking to the umpires about how these new rules are going to work and maybe giving away free kicks in intra-clubs and things like that. It's making me nervous when he's nearly 700K.
There was one report that he gave away 5 or 6 free kicks or something, wasn't there, in intra-club? He seems to be spending a lot of time working on that. He's an interesting one, Max, because he is a jumper, or traditionally was a jumper, so you would think he'd be okay with the new rules. How much maybe his jumping has faded since those years, who knows? But what did you think of him in the Origin match? Did you think he was sort of at his normal level? Are you worried at all about that?
Yeah, it did make me...
It wasn't a high-scoring one for us.
No, I'm sort of trying to say, I'm not going to read anything into this game, but I mean, none of the rucks really did a lot, and I suppose it's hard when you've got Max and Cherry on the same team. It did make me a little bit nervous that they did seem maybe a couple of times maybe a little bit unsure about how to approach some of those centre bounces and what am I allowed to do and not allowed to do. I mean, obviously Max has been around for a long time. He's going to figure it out, and they've been able to adapt whatever the rules have been over the years. And like you say, he hasn't maybe jumped as much recently because he's been able to do other things, and now he can go back to that. So I'm sure he'll be fine. But it is a lot of money to pay. But I guess the worry is there's no one really obvious to swap in for him. It's going to affect everybody.
Yeah, well, and Melbourne doesn't really have anybody to split the minutes even. I mean, I think Max Heath might play as sort of a secondary ruck. I think that might be an option for them. Tom Gamble is still in a neck brace after he had a neck injury at training. I think around Christmas time he's still not training, so he's not really an option for them right now. The other minor concern with Max, and I think it's probably a concern with most ruckmen, but he loves to get behind the ball and mark.
Yes.
Whether the new throw-up rules being quicker is going to be an issue for him getting to contests is going to be another question, I think. If they're going to throw the balls up immediately and he's caught on a back flank waiting for a kick out, he might not make it to those contests. And I think we're going to see probably more teams doing the Geelong-style ruckman staying off the contest. Let's have a tall guy on the forward line do the ruck contest work. That seems to make sense, doesn't it? So whether that's going to affect his scoring as well, it means he's in less contests. That's not a good thing. But if he's intercept marking on the back line, then that's a great thing. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so the other club that we've got down to talk about is North Melbourne, and we may as well go straight to Tristan Cherry because all the same questions around him, and he's just probably about a couple of grand cheaper than Max in SuperCoach. Again, has been locked into my team since SuperCoach opened, but now starting to second guess myself and thinking he gets all these tackles which are really around those ball ups, and if there's not as many of them, is that going to be a problem for him? I'm not sure if you're able to glean anything from North Melbourne training that might help us out here.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about Sherry. Like, I have him in my team at the moment. I like barracking for him. I like his sort of hard grunt style, but he is a stoppage player completely, and if we're reducing stoppages, there's going to be less throw-ins this year, only by a few they say, but who knows how that's going to work. Again, he's sort of more around the ball than Gawn, but if he's a bit slow getting into stoppages sometimes, so if he's not there, he's not there. He does a lot of tackling around stoppages. If we're not getting repeat stoppages, that's going to be an issue for him. So I'm a little bit worried about him. I think I'll stick with him, but I don't know. Again, like Melbourne, they don't really have a backup option. Taylor Goad's been playing a lot as sort of a second ruck in their match sim stuff. Cooper Trembath has been doing that too, but they're real backups options. Jack Darling's probably the other one that they'll have. So they're real like 2 minutes a quarter type options for them. So he's going to have to play all their ruck minutes. I don't know. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on him in the practice games to see sort of how he goes. I wasn't wowed by Origin, but then he was doing 50-50 the Max Gawn, so you can't expect him to score miles in that game. Yeah,
it's a big question mark going into the season in the ruck, and we suddenly have a few cheaper guys who are sort of bobbing up on the radar too. And you're talking about Lachlan McAndrew might get ahead of Riley O'Brien at Adelaide, and he's 119k or something. So it does throw a few other options out there. We sort of very quickly touched on the ruck situation at Essendon, but Vigo Vicentini's sort of the cheap ruck there, but you think he's probably behind Lockie Blackiston, who's actually a defender in SuperCoach, so he's probably not going to be an option.
Yeah, I think Blackiston is going to be the starting. Like, his jump is really suited to the new jumping rules. So he was jumping over the top of Vigo, who's taller than him, in that practice match. And I think they like that sort of versatility of him being able to fade into the back line, and Peter Wright's going to do a lot of secondary ruck work, at least to start the year. So they can do, like we spoke about, Wright can almost be your forward half ruck, and then Blackiston can fold back as a second defender, release someone else, all that sort of stuff. So I think that's probably a strategy they'll be looking at. And he can fit that as a more an adaptable player than Vigo to start. But one poor performance and he's probably going to be tipped out again.
Yeah, that's what makes it hard. Can you get away with one of these cheap guys at least till Nick Bryan arrives maybe? But anyway, we're going down the rabbit hole here. We should get back to the Kangaroos. Who else do we like down at Arden Street?
Yeah, I'd be keeping a very close eye on Finn O'Sullivan. Apparently he was the best player on ground in their match sim on the weekend. Obviously he's in his second year, so he's not going to be the cheapest player around, but he's playing solely midfield now. He's a little bit half-back last year, so he's going to be playing inside mid and wing.
I think he's a defender in SuperCoach, or you can pick him in defence. So
yeah.
That makes him a little bit more interesting.
So he's definitely one I'll be keeping a very close eye on. So he's going to be close to my team. The other one, Colin McKercher, was second best on ground, I've been told by the North sources. So he just racks up ball like crazy. He wasn't even playing as the highest defender to start on the weekend. Apparently he's a little bit deeper with Caleb Daniel up high, and he's still dominated out of that back half. So he's locked into my defensive six at the moment.
He was cited a few centre bounces early on in pre-season, but are we confident he'll actually play halfback?
Yeah, I think that was my fault. He was training with the midfield one day that I went down there, and then I've been told that he hasn't really trained with the midfield other than that. So maybe I just went a little bit hard on that, but I think he's been playing pretty much solely down back, and they need him there much more than they need him in the midfield, given their midfield stocks. So I think he's locked down there unless something surprising happens.
Talking about those midfield stocks, Harry Sheasel, I mean, do we even need to talk about him? He's 70% owned in SuperCoach. Obviously, we can pick him as a forward, but he's just going to play midfield now, we think?
Yeah, I think he's still going to do a little bit of that mid-40 at the end of last year, which could be a little bit hit and miss with Harry, but he definitely has still just been racking up the ball like crazy. I think they've decided at North, given they have options in the midfield, they want him being the guy that kicks the ball inside 50. And we know that sometimes that means you can have quieter days than if you're racking up 35 in the midfield, which he's often done. But I think he'll find
50.
plenty of the ball. Yeah, I think he'll find plenty of it. And I think everybody's got him in their forward line at the moment. He has to be sort of the number one scoring forward going into the year.
Yeah,
I think there's much doubt about that.
He's odds-on favourite down there. Anyone else at North we need to look at? Where's George Wardlaw at? Is he back training?
Yeah, so they think he might play the second practice match. He's an interesting one, Wardlaw. Again, he has to play as an inside mid. I don't think he has many strings to his bow. So he's going to be one that's going to be definitely worth watching in terms of how he fits into that structure. They've got Parker, they've got LDU. They're trying to squeeze a lot in there. They've got O'Sullivan now. Sheasel goes through there. You start running out of options in terms of running through the midfield. But they obviously want to play him. I think he'll probably play round one, but he has had those hamstring issues in the past, so they're going to have to be pretty cautious with him.
And North, they're an interesting stage in their development. Maybe not as many bottom-priced, first-year players getting in as we have seen the last couple of years. Is there anyone a chance to break in early?
Yeah, Lockie Doverston will play round one. I think that's pretty much locked in. Another small forward. There's quite a few of them at the moment. Yeah. They love the way he gets up and down the ground. He seems to have caught on to those running patterns pretty well. Kicked 4 goals in that practice match on the weekend, so he's one worth watching. Matt Whitlock as well. He played full forward, kick 5 in that practice match, playing for the B side. They're in an interesting position with their tall forwards, North. Obviously, Larky's playing. Then do you keep going with Jack Darling? Cooper Trembath finished the year really well for them. Do they go with him? Whitlock's a taller option, hasn't done as much ruck work, but do you play him or do you play Taylor Goad as basically a second ruck and stick him in forward for a little bit? So they're going to be really moving those players around, I think. I think Whitlock's a real chance to play early. He's played only forward throughout this year. So again, as a young, tall forward, how much he's scoring, I guess we'll see. But if he's running through as that second ruck, he might be worth keeping an eye on.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. You even mentioned Peter Wright earlier and thinking, I'm trying to figure out my draft rankings at the moment, and in the forward line, you may bump him up a few spots because we think he's going to do a little bit of extra ruck work. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot of flow-on effects there. So, no, that's awesome going through those clubs. Thanks for that, Josh. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Reminder that official SuperCoach podcast league code 407756. We'll be keeping a very close watch on all these practice matches. There's another one later today, I believe, and then a heap over the next couple of days.
Big day on Friday, Al.
Yeah, it's just back to back to back. So, yeah, I think this is the place to be if you can just have a laptop somewhere tuned into KO or wherever these games are streaming. We'll have all the SuperCoach news you need to know out of that as well. Where are you being sent off to?
I've got the lucky trip to go out to Casey for Melbourne and North Melbourne. So I'll be heading out there. That's the later one, Friday. So looking forward to it. Looking to see how I can test my knowledge that I've given you here.
Yeah,
hopefully
exactly.
I can back myself up.
Well, we'll definitely be grilling you on the Cherry v Gawn ruck situation. We want to know how those guys are going. So stay tuned for all that, of course, all the other great content you can get right across the pre-season. We'll catch you again soon.